Now, there are fears that a polarizing election will further inflame the culture war in the U.S. This week, the Department of Homeland Security warned of a rise in right-wing terrorism. The potential targets, including the LGBTQ community, as well as racial and ethnic minorities. Now, while the debate over gun controls remains deadlocked in Washington, one organization says the best protection for vulnerable groups is to give them guns as well.
CBS News has obtained a joint intelligence bulletin from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security highlighting the threat of domestic extremism ahead of the election. The report reads in part, quote, domestic violent extremists with election-related grievances such as the perception of election fraud or anger towards perceived political adversaries pose the most likely threat of extremist violence to election-related targets.
I mean, Christopher, look at the pictures we're showing on TV, right? I mean, the number of people who are coming and headed our way. We're told it's 3 additional caravans. Do you have any idea in terms of where that stands? Are they waiting until after the election?
What you're looking at behind me here is an emergency drill currently being conducted by the U.S. Capitol Police and the U.S. military. They're saying this is routine, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it might have something to do with evacuating all the VIPs and bigwigs next week when this place is descended upon by some of the 150 million people who don't win the election.
New York City sending 4,500 migrants back to Texas, offering free one-way plane and bus tickets to other states like Illinois, Florida, or Colorado. New York spent nearly $14 million on the reticketing program as of July.
It may not matter who wins. If President Trump wins, we may have 3 months where they're going to try to get in before the border is locked down. But if Vice President Harris wins, we're potentially going to see the increase because now they don't have to worry about perception anymore or holding back because the election is over.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
On day one, they issued 94 executive orders that gutted the network of tools, authorities, and policies we had in place. Just a couple of them, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but the safe third country agreements we had with all 3 Northern Triangle countries, gone. The Remain in Mexico program, gone. Title 42, they dismantled that. The wall, they stopped constructing it, and they put restrictions on ICE's ability to do interior enforcement.
You think it'll be a civil war if Trump loses again?
Oh, yes.
It's 10.6 million total nationwide encounters, plus another 2 million known gotaways, hundreds of thousands of unknown gotaways, and among them are the highest level of national security threats that we've encountered in any administration in history, the highest number of criminals we've encountered in any administration in history, and the highest number of people who died from fentanyl coming across the border than any other administration in history. And here's what's frustrating, Angela. She knows the data. Vice President Harris knows the data.
I guarantee if they steal it, there'll be a revolution. We the people own plenty of firearms. There's more gun owners than enlisted servicemen, and they are not going to go against patriots. I don't care what color camouflage comes after me. If you're going to try to put me in a detention camp or try to re-educate me, I'll kill you.
Monday night, August the 17th, I dreamt I saw a calendar month in November. It was bent, it was torn, it was dirty. I saw trees in the backgrounds that were leafless, but there were a few trees that still had scarce amount of leaves on them, and they had turned. The leaves that were still on those trees had turned like it was about to rain. I saw that finger appear, and it circled November 3rd continuously, and it continued in a clockwise direction. And then suddenly, it changed to counterclockwise, and then these images began to appear. I saw cities on fire, which was nothing new. I saw headlines that read, Trump victory challenged everywhere. And it was on digital marquees like in New York, Times Square, places like that. There were protesters in the streets who were weary and asleep, and they appeared dirty and dingy like they had not slept or showered in weeks. And this bell rang, and suddenly these people come to life. They woke up and they started salivating like a dog, like Pavlov's dog situation, big buckets of saliva, and it seemed to stain their shirts. And I saw people screaming and getting violent over the election results to the point that people were firing weapons just randomly into the air, into the sky. People were angry and people were mad.
I had this dream we're in this big mall. And while we're in the mall, I hear what sounds like a tornado siren winding up. And as I hear this siren wind up, I look over and I see it looked like, if anybody's seen World War Z with Brad Pitt, like zombie apocalypse type thing, right? And it was like this flood of people, like this demonically infused spirit of violence and rage and murder and bloodlust. And they come breaking through the doors like water crashing through a house when it's being flooded out. And they flood in every aspect of the mall. And their eyes were wild. They were all demonically infused liberals, like what you think they're just already given over. They want to murder babies. They want to murder children. They want to mangle children. They want to sexualize children. They want to devour. They want to destroy. They're anti-human. That spirit, some spirit had already been in them. And when the siren went up, something clicked in them. And they came flooding in like a zombie apocalypse. And they slaughtered everybody. Blood and bodies everywhere. There was about a 2-minute lull. Boom! It goes again, the next wave. They snap back into this demonic rage and just start slaughtering everybody, the most vivid thing I've ever seen. And the Lord all of a sudden raised me up and gave me a bird's eye view, and it was happening all over the face of the nation. It was happening everywhere, in every city, in every church, in the preschools, in the elementary schools, in the homes. It was the red horse. Peace was taken from the earth, and men were given over to slaughter one another. Literally just slaughter anything they could get their hands on. In the dream, I knew that it was 2 days before a national election.
I saw that finger appear, and it circled November 3rd continuously. There were protesters in the streets who were weary and asleep, and they appeared dirty and dingy like they had not slept or showered in weeks. And this bell rang, and suddenly these people come to life. They woke up and they started salivating like a dog, like Pavlov's dog situation, big buckets of saliva, and it seemed to stain their shirts. And I saw people screaming and getting violent over the election results, to the point that people were firing weapons just randomly into the air, into the sky. People were angry and people were mad.
The end date for Shemini Atzeret is October 26th at sunset. This also could be a 7-day warning to the new moon. Sudden destruction. Isaiah 66:23 says, from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Lord. And from the 26th, 7 days takes us directly to the new moon and to the Sabbath on November 2nd. Again, we blow the trumpet at the new moon, Psalm 81:3. Amos, it says they were waiting until the new moon was gone. God was going to turn their feast into mourning, their songs into lamentation. Daniel sharing in his video that the full moon calendar has Noah entering into the ark on the 26th, 27th of October, and the rain beginning 7 days later, which would be our November 2nd, 3rd. There is no 31st day on the Hebrew calendar. He also goes over the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, and it has Noah entering the ark November 5th, 6th. So this is an important time, whether we enter the ark and leave, or whether this is the 26th is a 7-day warning to the new moon when the trumpet is blown. We will see.
It's been 3 years since the last time I heard it. Isaiah 13, Isaiah 13, Isaiah 13. Oh God, I know what's in Isaiah 13 now. And he said this after I reread it. Suddenly, in an instant, son, the nations gather as we speak. When the new moon rises, you will know and understand. I don't know and understand.
Both October 26th and November 2nd are Sabbaths, but 7 days from October 26th again equals November 2nd, which is the new moon and the Sabbath. Again, Isaiah 66:23, from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Lord. And then, of course, right before that, Isaiah in verse 7, Isaiah says, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. So we know this is the rapture before the pain, before the tribulation. The church is delivered out of the earth, out of the world. I don't know if October 26th is going to be the exact day of the rapture or if it's a sign, a 7-day warning. I don't know, but I wanted us to look at these watch periods.
I saw a Conestoga wagon, and Kamala Harris was driving that wagon. It was led by 2 mules. And Joe Biden was not sitting with Kamala Harris. Joe Biden was riding on one of the mules on the left, on the far left, so to speak. And her side, there was a mechanical box that would trigger dynamite like you would see in the Wile E. Coyote movies, or cartoons where they push down and it blows up. It was in an upright position, though, like the trigger. And then the wind started blowing the wagon covering back, and it revealed several cases of like what I would consider to be Civil War type cases of dynamite, that era, the late 1800s, 1860s, 1870s.
I climbed the second floor, and I noticed that the climate had completely changed inside of it. Okay, it was a different atmosphere inside, and this guy had me cornered into a corner, and he was hurting me. And in that, I saw a vision within my dream, and I saw a picture of a TV. And I very clearly heard the words, by November.
October 26th plus 7 days takes us directly again to November 2nd, the new moon and Sabbath. We will have 1% illumination 3 days before election. Again, we're referencing David hid himself in the field. He hid himself for 3 days. And then when the new moon came, the king sat down and wondered, like, where is David? Why is David's seat empty? But David's in the field. Also, we have rapture dreams where the rapture occurred around the time of Halloween.
So Mars is in Cancer, but in the Mazzaroth, which you can check out at mazzaroth.info or click the link available from my Medium blog, is actually a symbol of an eagle or a sword in the Hebrew version. So Mars is in the eagle, which is symbolizing the sword. So you got the great red sword, the red horse, the sword, potentially being symbolized by Mars. So the biblical interpretation of the sign, so this is a screenshot from Mazzaroth.info, is the prince elongated in width. At the time of Jacob's trouble, the second coming, the binding of Satan, and the ascension of the saints is what they said it was associated with. This is their interpretation.
On November 2nd, as we can see, 1%. November 1, we have 0%. So this is the first sliver of the new moon that we are going to see. The trumpet will be blown on this day.
So as an eagle stirs up her nest, flutters over her young, spreads out her wings, take them, bear her on her wings.
The Lord has given us dreams and visions to share with one another, and all of our dreams put together, not just mine, but a lot of the watchmen, these dreams are coming to an end regarding the time frame in which they can happen. So a lot of people have had 2 moon rapture dreams, and Earth's mini moon asteroid leaves or could possibly hit on November 25th. The next supermoon is November 18th. So some people in their 2 moon dreams, they saw a big moon, which I think represents supermoon, and then they saw this smaller moon, which I think represents the mini moon asteroid that we have that will be gone on the 25th. Another feast or celebration that could be turned into mourning is the 25th of November, and I'm hoping we do not have to wait that long. But of course, I wanted to include it because of the date, and not only that, because it's the last day of Earth's mini moon / asteroid. So the date for me is always interesting. There's also our sister Angelina Bale actually brought this to my attention, and I'm going to clip this video in. But there's 2 rapture prophecies from 2 separate individuals who had angelic visitations, and we're going to test these prophecies. And basically they received a message that there was going to first be the 2020 chaos, but then later it was going to get worse, and that the rapture was going to interrupt the 2024 elections. And then we put that together with Russian state TV announcing in 2022 that there will be no 2024 elections.
We have 2 indication stories that we've been following. One is from Hot Mess. I don't want to get her name wrong, but that's the call handle she goes by on here. She does some YouTube videos, I do believe, herself. We watched one today. It was really good from her. But she and this other guy, there's another guy different from her, had a mysterious run-in with someone that was talking things about the future that added up to too much, and they couldn't figure out why. We automatically thought they could have been angels that they had come into contact with. It's not unheard of. It happens. Even the Bible says, you could entertain angels and not know. Now, Hot Mess got her message in 2013. These are two stories we've been doing a lot of research, and I mean a lot on, me and Shelley both. Now, in 2013, Hot Mess was working at, I guess, a restaurant. And at this restaurant, this woman walks in and starts to explain things to her. Now, she didn't really ask for this information, but this woman wanted to tell her a story. She was going to tell her about an election that would come in 2020 that would be, not legal. What would happen at the end of it? We won't go into detail with that. You all know what I'm talking about. And pretty much told her about all these weird and strange things, which is the pandemic and all that stuff that happened. But she said the next election after that's when it gets interesting. And she said she was so froze she couldn't even have a conversation with this person because there was just something wasn't right. So this person went on to say the next election, everybody's going to think it's going to happen, but it never takes place because the rapture takes place. Now, we see that story, and then we're like, okay, this is an awesome story, but that's just one story. Now, she went to churches and everything else trying to ask for help, just kind of like what I did when I got my message. I didn't even know what to do with it, and I had to have help. But she went to churches and everything, telling everybody after 2020 happened. Now, remember, this happened in 2013. Years before that ever happened, and she was correct about everything that happened. So she wanted to warn people. She tried her best. Nobody would listen to her. Everybody said she was quacking that. Of course, people don't believe anything these days, especially when it comes to God. I mean, they'll believe something stupid, but when it comes about God, they don't care. So I think that this story is awesome. So we keep it there, and we're trying to get confirmation on it. Well, right after that, a young man messaged me, and we've never been able to get no follow-up with him. But he ran into this person in 2019 and was talking about this. Now, he was working at a gas station, and we've asked for him to rewrite in, but we've never got a reply from him. But he worked at a gas station, and this person approached him and told him about what would happen in 2020, and then told him about there would not be an election the next time around, that the rapture would take place right before. So that's two stories from two people that did not know each other. It's exact stories, except one of the people, she was with a woman and he was with a man. And both of those stories are identical.
And then I saw November, and this is when it got real to me in the dream. I think the intensity, according to my Fitbit, when I woke up, my heart rate was about 180. So that was Monday night. It was also a night that I woke up not feeling very well at all. I was up during the night, not feeling well. But anyway, the minute the finger underlined November 3 times, instead of tapping it, I saw a fist ball up and it hit the calendar. And literally, the calendar exploded into the wall. The numbers seemed like they were 3D and they were just flying everywhere. And there was a cloud of chaos that started. And then the next thing I saw was I saw armed protesters. I saw fighting in the streets. I saw people pummeling one another. I saw businesses shuttered and shut up. I saw schools closed. I saw schoolrooms with cobwebs hanging in them, and things like papers falling off the wall and posters falling, like no one had been in them for months. I saw bank buildings with the roofs being taken off. And it looked almost like alien abduction because money was just flying through the roof into some type of like a vacuum cleaner. I know it sounds kind of strange, but I was watching wealth just being taken. I saw politicians in back rooms making deals with people, patting people on the back and laughing and smiling and smirking. And I saw monuments. I saw Washington, D.C. burning. I saw Washington, D.C. blazing. I saw fires everywhere. I saw people being rounded up. I saw Chinese and Russian soldiers on the ground. And Russian soldiers were telling the Chinese soldiers to go and pick up these people, round up these people, secure this quadrant, secure this area. I saw blue helmets of the UN. I saw military things taking place. I also saw no sign of President Trump. I saw no sign of leadership in Washington, D.C. But the vultures that I had seen were now like gargoyles, and they were 10 feet off the ground, 10 to 15 feet off the ground. And they were just attacking people mercilessly. I saw people hiding in their homes and garages. I saw churches being burned. I saw homes being burned. I saw absolute chaos. And the fist punch on the November of 2020 is what got my attention. And then I heard the words again, brace yourself, brace yourself, brace yourself.
And somehow, some way, in the midst of my disturbance, I fell asleep again. When I fell asleep again, I saw the same three pastors. This time they were bigger and they were higher. I saw the people. It was dark. There were no lights. People were trying to find lights, and there was no lights to find anything. And because of the darkness, the incapability to get any lighted areas, pandemonium broke out. Hysteria broke out. I saw people arguing in parking lots, shooting each other. I saw people in neighborhoods standing out in front of their houses, shooting each other. It was crazy what I saw with this. I was so disturbed. And I looked up and I said, God, please help us. Please help this chaos that is going on. And all of a sudden, I saw China and Russia coming into the United States of America. I don't know that I understand it, but they were military, they were soldiers, and they were coming in to maintain the peace. I don't know where the U.S. military was or anything like this, but they were coming in, and what they were doing was putting people in concentration camps. They were arresting people. Chinese soldiers and Russian soldiers were arresting people, and they were taking guns from everybody. I grabbed my face and I said, what? What are Chinese soldiers and Russian soldiers doing in America? And as soon as I asked that question in the dream, immediately I heard the Lord shout, and he said, September, October, November. He said, warn the people.
Jim, this is incredibly significant because this is one of the court's first significant decisions ahead of next week's election. Here, they are allowing the state of Virginia to continue with a program that will purge suspected non-citizens from its voter registration rolls.
This is just one of a dozen protests around our capital after reports emerged claiming that the new founding fathers had been using the purge to help their own economic agenda. Here's a recent statement by incendiary purge detractor Dante Bishop.
For the past 20 years, the NFFA has taken a legalized murder to decrease the poor population, which in turn keeps the government spending down. Less welfare, less health care, less housing.
Recent polling suggests that the growing anti-purge sentiment may have a monumental effect on the upcoming presidential election. Establishment NFFA candidate Minister Edwidge Owens has been losing ground to wildcard independent candidate Senator Charlie Roan. 18 years ago, Roan was forced to watch the brutal execution of her entire family on Purge night and entered the political arena soon after with one goal in mind: to put an end to the annual holiday.
I have no doubt that the soul of our country is at stake. The purge has to come to an end.
Senator Roan is proving to be the greatest threat to the NFFA regime since they first took office 25 years ago.
Is that close?
All polls have her a point behind. I'm sorry, Caleb.
No sorries, Minister. You're doing a great job. Let us put you where you need to be. Thomas.
We have our people out there countering all this anti-NFFA. What else can we do?
We do whatever it takes! I have had it with all these idealistic pigs. They want the impossible. Everyone to have. Some cannot have, not enough to go around. It's time to do something about all these, like that rat bishop and senator trying to dismantle everything we've built. We are going to use this year's purge to do some spring cleaning, gentlemen.
Turn from your sin, for all this society is about to come under the justice of God.